All right, Brooke, good afternoon. How's it doing?
Conrad, what's shaking, man? Beautiful day here in lovely Baltimore, Maryland. How are you?
Well, it's extended down here to the Carolinas. It's a nice day here. We'll see how it is in Florida in a second with Dennis, but yeah, overall doing great. Can't complain. The weekend was great too. This is like the best time to be here, at least in my mind. The fall and the spring are the best times to be in the Carolinas. Like the heat is kind of here, but the humidity is not. So I
That's
dig it.
right. That's right. That's right. Well, I'm excited for our next guest. We've got a gentleman I look up to very much, a great marketer, Mr. Dennis with Cassiola. Dennis, welcome. How you doing?
Awesome,
Thank you. I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
awesome, Dennis.
Um,
I'm curious, how did you and Brooke originally connect?
Well, we actually got introduced by Steve Trover, and it was all the way at the beginning when Brooke was just starting out or thinking about the idea of doing business development or owner growth as a service, and we started talking. And it was actually funny. After he was explaining everything that he did and he looked at everything that we did, he actually told me, like, yeah, Dennis, you guys are doing everything that I would do for you. There's actually nothing I can offer you right now. So I'm never going to forget that. And then I've seen how you guys have been growing over the years and helping other businesses. So a lot of respect, Brooke. I'm honored to be there all the way at the beginning, seeing the idea come to life. Amazing job you did there.
yeah, no, it was funny. That was one of my, I think it was down in 30A, one of my first partners. So the first year I would actually go on site with every new partner. And I remember I was down in 30A and I just peeled away in the early morning to kind of pitch you and go over it and kind of ask you what you were doing. But you're absolutely right. I remember you were doing everything that we really offered at that point. So it was almost like, you know what, Dennis, I think you got this covered. Don't worry about it. We'll call you back in a couple of years when we've kind of redeveloped. And we've never done that. So we need to circle back around and give you a demo here, Dennis, because I think we've got a pretty cool product that will knock your
Absolutely.
socks off. So I'm gonna hold you to that. So maybe we'll do a live demo on the air right now, Conrad.
Yeah.
That'd be a first. That'd be a first. Maybe Dennis, too, for the benefit of the listener. Obviously you built a great company. Some people following may not know Cassiola. Would you mind maybe just like a quick version of the size of the company today, the scope of it, what you're kind of focused on today with your vacational company, and then we could dive into the top 10 mistakes as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So my name is Dennis. I'm the founder and CEO of Cassiola. We are a traditional property manager, started in 2014. So this year is our 10th year anniversary. We actually have a big event coming up this week. So we currently manage around 350 vacation homes in three destinations in Orlando, where we started. We also expanded into Aruba in 2021. And last year we started Miami. So we're in Aruba, Orlando, and Miami.
Awesome. No cold weather destinations any time on the horizon, I
No
would
cold
imagine. Yeah.
weather. No.
It was so funny, Dennis. I think I sent you a message a while ago. I've been to Aruba now, I think 3 times last 5 years, somewhere in that range. And we were up in Palm Beach, and we were going by every house, and it had the pink Cassiola sign. Then there'd be like one or two that didn't. Then it would have pink Cassiola sign. So the inventory you guys have down there is incredible. I mean, that's the nicest stuff on the north end of the island. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. And our branding there is so strong with all the
Yeah.
signs. We have a bunch of vans driving around there. We have an office at the main road. So everybody knows us there.
Right.
That's great to see.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
No,
Hey,
the inventory there is excellent. Go ahead, Brooks.
and it's something like you are probably one of the best marketers I've seen in this industry, and you do such a good job. And I've always been so impressed. But I've never asked you this question. What was your background? What did you do before short-term rentals?
So before that, I had an e-commerce business in Europe. So I'm originally from Belgium, and I started an online printing company when I was very young, when I was 18 years old. So established my first business the week after I turned 18. Couldn't do it any sooner. And in the beginning, we started as a supplier for all kind of stuff for event organizers. So we provided light and sound equipment and DJs and shirts. And one of the things that we also offered was flyers and posters. And now we saw that there was a lot of demand also from non-organizers for the kind of prints that we offered, and then it turned into a huge e-commerce business. So by the end, before I sold in 2013, we had offices in 7 European countries and 2 production facilities, one in Belgium and one in Morocco in Marrakesh.
Wow, that explains your strong marketing background. That's fantastic. It's great to see people from other industries come into this space. And here's a fun fact. So this is the second podcast recording in a row we've had from an immigrant from Belgium. We just had Cohen Rollins on with Rollins Vacation Rentals just a couple days ago.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Also in Florida too, although quite
Right.
a ways away from you, Dennis. No direct competition there, but yeah, there's an interesting tidbit.
I've met him absolutely, so that's great to see.
Yeah, I can't think of a third one, Brooke. To be honest with you, I think we got the two back to back. That's it. I can't think of a third.
we got the Belgian Mafia all covered.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, we do back to back weeks. We can't speak a lick of the native tongue, but we've got these guys here with us. So awesome, Dennis. We'll dive in then to the top 10 mistakes if you're okay with it, and we'll kind of learn, I think, a little bit about your previous experience and what you've done to grow the business to be so impressive here with Cassiola today. So number one, we'll dive right in. Thinking that managing vacation rentals will be easy. Spoiler: it's hard. It's really, really hard. 24/7 hard. All right, Dennis. So what's been the biggest surprise and how hard it has been managing vacation rentals since?
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm one of those people that always give the advice to newcomers in the industry. They always ask me like, what would you do? And I always tell them like, don't do it, do something else, find something else. And they always think like, oh, you don't want any more competitors and you just want to keep me out of the industry. And then 6 months later, I see them again and they said, oh, you were right, we should have listened to you. So I've never ever done anything as hard as managing vacation rentals. And we were just talking about what I did before. So I sold my business in 2013. My goal was actually to slow down a little bit. I worked like really hard for 13, 14 years since I turned 18. And I thought like, I still want to do something, but I'm going to take it easy. And I thought, how hard can it be to manage vacation rentals, right? You're just sitting there at the pool all day in sunny Florida, waiting until someone needs something. And that was really my vision of what I was going to be doing. And then we acquired a small existing business to get started, around 25 properties, all in one resort. And I've never worked as hard as the first years, basically doing property management. It was just nonstop, 24/7. You never have a day off, especially if you're small. In the beginning, it was just me and my wife doing everything. I was doing the back office and all the computer work, doing guest relations, distribution, revenue management, all that kind of things. And my wife was in the field overseeing housekeeping, taking care of guests, and it was just nonstop. So I thought that I had some experience. Like I said, we were managing 7 offices, 2 production facilities. We had 120 employees in my previous business. So I thought I know how to run a business, and nothing has been as hard as property management. So I have so much respect for the small mom and pop managers that have been doing this for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and they don't have the ambition to grow. They just want to do it on their own and keep it small. I have so much respect doing that for so long without any help. It's not easy.
Yeah, Dennis, I use your line all the time when people like reach out to me and they're in another vertical, another industry, and they want to come here, and I literally give them this exact line. It's so funny, and I don't know, I cannot tell you how many people I've talked to that have been very successful in other industries, other verticals, and they look at this industry and they're like, how hard can this be? And it's, guess what? You are spot on. It is really, really hard. I was very successful in mortgage banking, came into this space, and I realized, and I've got some scars from this myself. So.
Yeah. I think that's a Jerry Seinfeld bit, isn't it, Dennis? I don't know if you've heard that one before, where people ask him advice, how do you become a comedian? And he just fires back, don't. And actually, I think his reason for saying that is twofold. Number one, yes, it's hard to be a comedian. And two, it's like, if you really want to do it, me saying yes or no shouldn't actually sway you. Like, if you really want to do it, you should push through and do it anyway. So maybe, Dennis, you're kind of doing that a little bit, where you're telling them no because, yes, it is hard. But also, if they truly want to do it and they're going to be great, that no from you hopefully shouldn't stop them. And if they really want to get great at it, they will
Absolutely.
figure out a path.
And don't get me wrong, I love it. And I think the vacation rental industry is like a virus. Once you get into it, it's so hard to leave. You see all those people trying to do other things, and then they come back to the vacation rental industry. So it's an addiction. I love doing it. Now, would I do it again with everything that I know today? Probably not, but it's so hard to do something else or not be part of this industry anymore.
It's easy. You
No.
know what? Here's the kind of the win-win. Become a vendor. You get to still stay in the industry. You get to meet these great people, hang out with these people. It's hard. Don't get me wrong, but it's not as hard as being a property manager where you are on 24/7.
Yeah.
No. Awesome. Well, pivoting a little bit then, Dennis, for number two. Number two is not showing owners all the things we do, quote, often free of charge for them. So maybe you could talk about that a little bit. How do you communicate with your owners what you are doing for them on a, weekly, monthly basis, that sort of thing? And how have you improved that part
Yeah.
of your business?
Yeah. So that's something I realized really quickly. So, like we just discussed, you work so hard 24/7, but most owners don't see what you put in there and what you do for them. And then it's time for the monthly owner statements, and they see a $25 bill for something that you did on their statement, and they completely freak out and are so focused on the $25 charge without even realizing that you got out of bed at 2 a.m. at night to help a guest, I don't know, connect to the internet or help them get in their property, in their vacation rental because they were at the wrong address or in the wrong building and stuff like that. Obviously, we don't charge for that because that's why we charge a commission, right? We have a commission to serve the guests and the owners. So we only charge them if we really have to do something in their home, like a capital improvement, or if we have to pay a bill from an external vendor. But everything else that we do is part of our commission. And owners just have no idea. They only see, oh, I've got 4 bookings this month and I've got 2 bills. What are you guys doing for me? They don't see me going into the revenue management software every day and me trying to solve bugs with a connection to booking.com or Expedia or any of the other channels. So a solution that we came up with is we build our own owner application or owner portal where we literally show everything that we do in real time. So our whole operations team is connected to that app, from our housekeepers to our maintenance, our accounting team. So everything that happens in a home is you can track everything that happens in your home in real time through our owner app. And I think that has helped a lot. So people see like, hey, oh my God, you guys have done 101 different tasks in my home in the last 2-3 months, and you're only charging me for 2 or 3 of these. So that is one of the things that we have done, but it's really important to communicate that with your owners so that they don't think like, oh, the $25 charge, that's the only thing that they did for me this month, and now they're charging me an arm and a leg for that. So yeah, that's one of the pitfalls that I would advise all new property managers: make it very clear and show them what you do for them.
That's a great idea. I can't believe you guys built that in-house. We obviously weren't that sophisticated, but I think after like 2 or 3 years of me running Vantage, we had the same exact conversations, Dennis. We would get beat up over a $25 or a $50 trip fee to go change the batteries in the smoke detector or something like that. But they missed the 18 other things we did for free when we didn't just put it on there. So we ended up changing our policy where every single trip we did out there, we logged, we put it on their statement, their owner statement, and we put no charge, no charge, no charge, no charge. So then when we did charge them that one bill, when it was, changing a smoke detector, which inevitably only goes out in the middle of the night, then they weren't as upset when we charged them. But I love the idea of building the owner app. That's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. I think they hard coded inside that smoke alarm to only start beeping after 2 a.m.
Yeah.
At night.
Not only is
Maybe
vacation
let's
rentals,
talk to
even my own
Justin
house
Ford
too.
about that. Talk to Justin Ford
Yeah.
about that. Getting smoke detectors where they only beep during normal business hours.
Right. Like it should have a battery to know like when it's under 10%, beep from, 9:30 a.m. to
Yeah.
at least 5 or 6 p.m. Even like before dinner wouldn't bother me to change my smoke alarm.
That's like a
But yeah.
genius solution. I think
Yeah.
you have a new product there that will really take off in our industry. Yeah.
We'll clip that out. We'll save that one if we ever want to, come down and get in the vendor side, Dennis. That can be your vendor side. Smoke alarms that are scheduled to only beep from 9 to 5 and they go before that
Absolutely.
battery actually goes.
Partner with Justin. Justin will sell them at every conference.
Yeah. I like that a lot though, Dennis. So that third party application, it replaces having a software like a Breezeway. Like you don't need that type of software because it does that, or it's complementary to something like a Breezeway type of
No,
platform.
so yeah, what we do, so we have our own in-house development team. So what we do is we connect to through the APIs with our PMS system. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel either and build everything from scratch. So we just connect it to all the different software systems that we use, from our revenue management software to our analytics, PMS, and anything else, log system, and bring all that information together, and we share it in real time with our owners so that we don't have to call them or email them every time something happens in their home.
Okay. I'm actually going to go a little out of order then, Dennis, if that's okay with you. So number 4 was focusing too much on the guest experience instead of the owner experience. Owners are the key to growth in our business. I mean, we talked about it maybe just the past minute or so with respect to this, thing that you built in house. Is that maybe like the main hub of innovation with the owner experience, or there's other things you've layered in as well on the owner side?
There's a lot of other things that we've done, but I remember all the way in the beginning, I came into this business and I thought like, hey, the guest is our customer because the guest is who pays all our bills, right? Without guests, we don't have a commission. The owner cannot pay their mortgage. We cannot pay our salaries. So we went all out for our guests. If they wanted something, they got it. If they had a complaint, we would solve it so that we would get great 5-star reviews and that they would be happy no matter what. But I quickly realized that it not always aligned with the owner's interest, and once you start losing some owners, you realize that that without homes and owners, it's really hard to increase your revenue. And I'm sure that the Brooke has his opinion on that too, but I can do the best revenue management and distribution strategy in the world. With just adding one additional home to my portfolio, I can probably generate more revenue than doing the revenue management and the distribution strategy. So once that clicked, and it took me like a year and a half to really realize that, like, hey, the key to our growth are owners and not guests. Of course, we need to keep our guests happy because no owner wants to see all 1-star reviews in their home. And that's also going to affect revenue. But we have to keep that owner in mind and not go all out for the guests, especially if we think that they're not right or if they damage something in the home and they said, oh, it was already like that when we walked in, and we know that it wasn't. We need to keep them accountable, and we need to fight for that owner too, because they're the ones that really help us grow our revenue.
Dennis, I swear you must have just seen the presentation I did. So I was on a guesty road tour down in the Panhandle, and that was exactly my slide. So we took an average vacation rental manager with 40 properties, and I think we were assuming they were doing about $350 in ADR, 65% occupancy. And if you think about it, you're like, maybe you can lift the revenue management, 5%. You go out there, you sign up with Price Labs, Wheelhouse, something like that. You go hire a full-time revenue manager. It has I think it adds about 142 grand to the top line. You then go out, let's say you through really good marketing channels, you get through a marketing distribution, you slap it on Airbnb, Booking.com, Vrbo, and all the other channels. Maybe you get 5%, additional reservations. It was I think 150,000. But the same equivalent lift comes out to about one property per month, signing up one property per month. That added $850,000 in top line revenue. It was 4 to 6 times the impact by just adding that same equivalent lift. It's the greatest growth lever that you can pull is just adding more inventory. Adding one property is like getting 100 reservations if you think about it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get 100 reservations. You will book those properties. If you get a good solid property, you're going to get the reservations and it's going to be full. So again, it is the ultimate growth lever that you can pull to increase your top line revenue.
And then on each reservation, you have all the additional fees where you have a margin on. So, you don't get that with doing better revenue management, right? Because there's a rev share with the owner. But on each cleaning fee, you make some money. Each accidental damage protection fee, you make some money. Early check-ins, late checkouts. So, no, it's so important. I think if you can grow your inventory, you're gonna grow your business.
Someone should start a business about that.
Yeah, I wonder what they could call it, Brooke. What do you think?
Something
Maybe
related
a
to
play.
inventory. Play on words.
Right.
Yeah.
Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that one. All right, number 3. I'm going to go backwards then, Dennis, if that's all right with you. I think that does make a lot of sense the way you describe it. Number 3 is kind of interesting with regards to people management. So not delegating fast enough. It's often so much faster to do small repetitive things yourself instead of writing a procedure and teaching someone else to do it until that's what you do all day. So walk me through your process today of delegation. How, as the business has grown, how have you worked on your delegation within the business?
Yeah, it's still hard, right? I still struggle with it. There's all those small little things that you do, and they may not happen very often. It's not that I do those things every single day, but maybe there's something that pops up every week or every month or every few months, and just think, oh, I'm just gonna do it because if I have to write a process for it, I have to show someone how to do it. I have to follow up if they do it right. It takes me 10 times more time than just doing it myself. But after a while, if you have 10 or 20 or 30 of those things, you realize like, hey, I'm wasting a whole entire few days, a month, just by doing all those small little things. And if you do that consistently from the beginning and write it out and then make sure that someone else can do it's just going to free up so much of your time in the long term. So it's a short-term investment in time to write it down and outsource it or delegate it, but it's going to free up so much of your time in the long term. And I see a lot of our managers struggling with the same thing. I always keep on repeating, like, write the process, add it to our playbook, and make sure that other people can do it. But it's easier said than done.
I feel like Conrad, 2 of these came up. This is like 2 in 1. The delegating or not delegating fast enough, and the SOPs and processes. Like this was, Dennis, you were not alone. This came up almost every single time. Many people talked about like holding everything themselves and not delegating, and then also the not creating the SOPs fast enough. But we had one partner came on recently, Cohen, with Rollins Vacation Rentals. He talked about he signed up with Trainial to kind of set up SOPs, with videos and everything, which he said was a great source to be able to put that out and share it with the team, and you can update it constantly rather than writing a SOP, writing a stupid, like Google Doc that nobody really wants to read. Make it a little bit more interactive through a platform like Trainial.
Mm-hmm. We also mentioned Loom last episode, Dennis. I don't know if you've used that tool, but they've improved it significantly to where, I think if you were showing a team member, an employee, you probably would do it, whether in person or whether, through Zoom or something like that, in like a, hey, watch this, let me do this on the screen. And I find that to be a pretty valuable tool as well, because I find doing even if I was writing for 10 minutes of process versus doing a 10-minute Loom, the amount of information I can get out in 10-minute Loom is like 5x, 10x more than I can do writing something down in Google Docs for 10 minutes. So the tools are getting a lot better to make SOPs, and it makes it a lot less tedious. And that's like increased my pickup dramatically on getting more of them out. And I'm with you, Dennis, though. It's hard. Like there's that little reflex I think we have in our business owner brain that's just like problem, like my dad says, see a problem, fix a problem. So I just see a problem, I want to fix it. And then that's fine at first, like you said, but at some point you've got to like slow down, let me build a system around this so I don't have to keep fixing it forever, because that's a treadmill that's
Absolutely,
hard to get off of.
And in the beginning, it's just you, so you don't need processes because it's all in your head. But then, other people come on board and there's no time and you're too busy because, of course, you hire way too late when you already should have done it months ago and you don't have the time to write a whole process. Now, it's great that you guys are talking about Trainual or Loom. So one of the challenges that we found is we do not... The biggest part of our team are frontline workers. They're out and about all day, running around from home to home. And a lot of these systems are made for office workers when you're at a desktop and you have big screen and you can watch the videos and have good audio quality, not too much noise. So we found that challenging. So we chose for a system called Workplace by Facebook or by Meta. So it's the professional version of Facebook, basically. So everybody knows how to work it, how to use it without even a training. It's also multilingual. So a lot of the things, if you would record a video, a lot of our staff only speak Spanish, especially in housekeeping and maintenance. So we already would have to make multiple videos in multiple languages or translate them. And I know with AI, it's a lot easier these days. But what I really like about Workplace is you can add multiple languages, it translates it automatically. You can search for issues and see the solutions right on your phone. It's all in an app. It's not just tied to a desktop, and it works really, really smooth on your phone. So that's what we use, just in case other people would be interested to hear some different opinions. I love Trainwell. Looked into it too. Has a lot more options. But we noticed when we did trials that it was not as easy to manage for the frontline workers, because it's an additional software that they have to learn and log into and keep on their phones. So we went with Workplace.
That's great. All right, we'll share that in the show notes. Workplace by Meta. Thanks for that idea. That's a great tip.
Yeah, I was aware of that one, Dennis, but I hadn't seen it in a while. It looks like now they're like have their own domain, like workplace.com, and the branding in this has changed significantly since I last looked at it.
And we use it as our general communication tool. So it's not just a manual or SOPs. We use it to share all information, to recognize each other, to do broadcast of new things that we're introducing, for meetings, you name it. So that's really our like Slack tool that we use within our company.
Yeah, I know there's different platforms in the past. Currents comes to mind. I don't know if you ever used that product, Dennis. That was a Google product. And then the other one that comes to mind is P2, which is a WordPress product, has something similar where it's kind of like a feed, and it mimics more social. But this is actually like made by a social platform, so that makes a ton of sense, honestly. All good stuff. Well, let's pivot then into number 5. Number 5, not building out a laundry facility sooner. It's so much easier to get laundry systems started when you have 20 than when you have 200 properties. So what's kind of been maybe like the process of building laundry out? What's been the financial benefits? That's what I've heard people talk about before. And what have you learned building out one of those facilities?
Yeah, so originally, and in all honesty, so in Orlando today, we do not do our own laundry, so we don't have our own laundry facility. But I think Orlando may also be a little bit one of a kind market. There's so many hotels and vacation rentals out here, and so many laundry vendors already in place that we can never compete with them. But I remember looking into it when we had like 50 properties, and in the beginning it would just be with regular residential dryers and washers. And I was thinking, like, yeah, we're too small to do that. Let's revisit that in a few years from now. And then we looked at it again when we were at 200 properties, and it became so complex and expensive to get it started. And especially if you don't have that experience of running a laundry, taking that risk if you're already at 200 properties is really dangerous. So what we did, for example, in Aruba, I wanted to avoid that mistake. In Aruba, there's a lot less options available. They're also very expensive. So we started all the way in the beginning with doing our own laundry. It was just like a shipping container with a few washers and dryers. Now we have our own warehouse and more professional machines than back then. But you get used to it from the beginning. Your whole team knows how the process works. They don't have to do laundry in the homes. There's a much better quality control. And that's for us the main benefit. You have, first of all, quality control on linen. You are sure that everything has been washed. But then secondly, also creating more time for your housekeepers. It's not easy to find housekeepers. So if they're just sitting there in the home and waiting until the dryer is done, it's not the most efficient use of their time. So now we can let them do a lot more homes per day because they don't have to wait on the laundry anymore. So they're more productive, they make more money, and they can do what they should be doing, and that's cleaning and not just doing laundry and waiting around for laundry. So I don't know if it's per se cheaper doing it externally. It may be, but it's a lot more efficient. It's easier to find and attract housekeepers because they want to make as much money in the shortest amount of time too. So if they can process more homes in the same day and make more money, they're gonna prefer us above someone where they have to do the linen in the house. So for us, it's mainly quality control and time savings.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, Dennis. I think I was thinking more when you were talking about cost savings, like the return on hassle maybe is the better metric, not the return on investment, because maybe the investment isn't, the strongest, but like if it's just easier, like you said, for your team, for your, the guests to get a better experience, that makes a ton of sense to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's kind of go in a different direction here, more about the team. You talked about bringing, contracting cleaners on, things like that. That's important. Number 6, holding on to underperforming employees for too long, hoping they get better if we give them some more time. You usually know in the first week or so if someone will work out or not. So what's kind of been your process of hiring people as you've gotten bigger, and how have you made the right decisions about hiring, hopefully the right people, and getting them to stick on your team?
There's a whole lot going on behind you, Conrad. I
Yeah.
think a few people are trying to get your attention.
Yeah,
Or there's a
little ones
serial
outside.
killer in your yard. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Well, I'm married to her, so let's hope not.
Now, this is an interesting topic, and it may just be me, but I have the feeling like I'm the worst in reading people. I've probably hired 200-300 people in my life personally, and still it's a 50-50% chance if they're going to work out or not after that interview. I just can't tell. Some people are so good in selling themselves, and they're horrible once they start. And one of our best employees that we've ever hired, I just hired out of desperation. Their interview went horrible, but we just had no one else, so we had to go with them, and then they turned out to be amazing, and yeah, the most incredible team members that we've ever had. So it's still really hard to me. So what I've learned is you just have to take a chance, but then also in the first week, if they're gonna work out or not. Whatever BS they told you during the interview, they're gonna fall right through in the first week. And that's the hard part. You always think like, oh, let's give them a little bit more time. They have to learn. They're still new to the industry or new to the job. It's a lot to process. Maybe next month they're gonna be better, or they're gonna be catching up. And usually they don't. If they are not great in the first week, they never gonna make it, and it's something that we should do a lot faster. In the first week, by the end of the week, if they should stay or not.
You're absolutely right, and this one, you're not alone, Dennis. I mean, this one came up time and time again as one of the top mistakes. But I always go back to. And I know you're big fans of predictive index and culture index and these psychometric personality assessments. I think they definitely help a little bit. But I always go back to the quote by Sam Altman. It's like hire for values first, aptitude second, and specific skills third. But it is true. Very often you do know within that first week or two if they're going to make it or not. And I don't think I've ever had a point where in that initial period by waiting it actually gets any better. So sometimes, unfortunately, you're better off pulling off the Band-Aid and just rip it off.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those things that's, again, easier said than done, but you get that gut feeling sometimes right away. It's like, for me, it's like when the first deliverables start to come back from someone. That's kind of my, point where it's like, all right, you talked about, say, doing topic X or topic A or topic Z, whatever you say you're good at. You talk the right game, but that's my like little moment of truth, Dennis, on my side of things. Like, show me the actual work that you do, and then I can tell pretty quickly if they're going to be a good fit or not. Awesome. Well, let's go along into number 7. So number 7, viewing every owner that leaves our management program as a personal failure. You're not going to be matched for every owner, and that's okay. We've talked at length about like firing, owners on the show previously, and a lot of people have said like they were a pain in the tail, like we got rid of them for that reason. Maybe you could talk to that, Dennis, and also like maybe there's other reasons why they don't work out, and it's not always that they're necessarily a bad person, or that they're just not the right fit. How do you make that decision now, and how do you make sure you find the right owners and feel okay moving on from the ones that just aren't the right fit for you?
Well, I'm gonna be honest. It's still hard if someone leaves you. It's different if you fire someone because they're a pain, right? Then, yeah, you want to get rid of them. But if someone has been with you for years, and then one day they come to you and they say, you know what, Dennis, you did a great job, but I want to try someone else. It still feels like a personal failure. What did we miss? What could we have done differently? And yeah, I know it's part of this business, but it's still hard to me. And sometimes they just have a different vision, different opinion, that there's different things that are important for them. We always have been very revenue focused from the beginning. A lot of property managers were not. They did like bookings as like something on the side. We take care of your property, and if we can get bookings, great. And a lot of owners, especially 10 years ago, were totally fine with that. They didn't buy those properties as an investment, but more as a real vacation home, a second home. And if they could use it a few weeks a year and cover their expenses, they were more than happy. And I was always there, like, hey, numbers, 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 return, return, return. And that's not what's important for everyone. And it was hard for me to understand that in the beginning. Sometimes that old chair in the home where grandma had been sitting with the grandchildren is more important for them than, hey, let's change that and we do the design and get you 20-30% more revenue. And yeah, everybody has a different view on why they invest in the home and what they want to do with it. And it's not always my fault. It's just they're looking for something different, and it's hard, but it's just part of the business, or part of any business, I would say.
Yeah, when an owner leaves your program, man, it hurts. It really hurts. It's kind of like a personal, not attack, but it's just but it should hurt. And I guess to the point is, if it doesn't hurt and you don't feel anything, maybe it's time to move on and get out of the business. Um,
That's
one
true.
proactive
Yeah.
one proactive strategy we had is we would I don't know if you do this or not, but we'd always send NPS surveys out, and I would do it quarterly. And the reason I would do it is I wanted to get out in front of it. People would sometimes tell me, hey, that we're not very happy, and then you can it might be something so silly, but if you can get out in front of it, sometimes it's helpful to kind of retain them.
Yeah.
And that those quarterly NPS has really helped.
And especially if something happens and yeah, they had an incident in the home, you understand it, but sometimes you really give it your very best, you do everything that you can, and then they still, let's try someone else. Maybe they can do better. They may come back, but we've had that many times too. That then after 6 months they're back and said, "Yeah, it wasn't better," but
Yeah.
still, it hurts that you are not able to convince them that you're the best available option for them. So
And
yeah,
that's a great point, right? Leave that door open. Don't burn the bridge. Do it respectfully. Make it as easy as possible for them to transition. Give them all the stuff they need. Give them all the information they need. Don't give them more hurdles to make it more challenging to leave. Because if you make it easy and you have a good, leave a door open and have a good rapport with them, there is a high probability that they're going to come back. Because you know what? Very often the grass isn't greener. I can't tell you how many times I sometimes hated the first time owner. You know what I mean? Because they would experience us first and then they would go somewhere else thinking it's better. It was actually sometimes nicer where they started with another property management company, because we could earn it. They realized how bad it can sometimes be on the other side.
Yeah. When you were talking about the approach of the owner, like their psychology, basically, Dennis. Sorry, I couldn't get the word there. I was imagining like you showing a calendar to someone who's very revenue motivated, and the calendar's completely booked, and they're going to be over the moon. They're like, "Oh man, Dennis, these guys Cassiola, that's awesome. That's what I want to see." And you show it to the person that wants to use it 3 weeks a year, and they're like, "Oh no, like my property's fully booked. I can't go use it. I forgot to put my owner block in." So same, scenario. You're showing two different calendars to two different people, and one person may be like, "Oh no, that's a bummer," and the person would be like, "That's awesome," even though you showed them the same information. So Bragana, you've talked at length about like the motivation behind the owner themselves and why they're listing. And I think what you're describing, Dennis, is very common. A lot of people want to use these properties. And I always say this too, right? Most people who can afford a second vacation home are probably doing well in their life. Like it's not, they probably have a business or a job or something that's pretty high earning if they can go afford nowadays to pay five, six, seven, $800,000 for a second home. They're probably doing well in their life. So they're not always as motivated financially as I think we often make them out to be, where we're often targeting the investor or we talk a lot about revenue. Not that it's hard to win over some owners without that being a key piece of the puzzle, but I think we overstate that. My personal take on that sometimes, people aren't always as keyed in on that as I think we think from a marketing perspective.
Yeah.
Number 8, let me tie in this one, and then I'm going to tie 9 and 10 together because I think we're going to have a spirited debate on this one, Dennis. So we'll save that for the end. Number 8, though, is not timely and proactively overstaffing in preparation for high season. You will definitely unexpectedly lose someone, creating a trickle effect and burning out others on your team, causing even more people to leave. So what's kind of your approach here today? In a market like yours, Dennis, which pretty much feels like high season is much of the year. How do you staff the right levels and have backups, for people in certain key roles?
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had that discussion just last week. So now we're April when we're May when we're recording this episode, and May in Orlando is traditionally a slow month, and we are currently hiring for our operations team. And our CFO came to me last week and said, "Should we really be doing that? It's so slow. We don't need additional people." And I told him, like, yeah, summer is coming up next month. We've got 1 month to go. Then we have our longest season, which is from mid-June all the way to mid-August. It's 2 months, like really hard work in 110 degrees. If we're unlucky, a few like hurricanes coming over where we have to put everything inside and back outside, and it's stressful for our team. So I know for sure in the summer we're gonna lose probably 1 or 2 people. For various reasons, not because of the job, but something can come up or happen. And now we're in trouble if we just staff right enough to get us through the summer. Where we're gonna lose someone, and we're gonna burn out the rest of the team, and that's something that we really need to avoid. We've done that, I think, a few times in the past, and now you really lose your key people, your great people that are amazing, and they really try and they carry that weight of the people that quit, but you can only do so much. So what I've learned is, as well as guest relations and owner relations and the operations team, you just have to overstaff a little bit, and it's hard, especially in an economic environment like today, where you want to be really careful about your costs. But we've done that in 2000, I think, 21, when we got that tsunami of bookings. We also thought, like, hey, we need to save on costs. COVID is here, business is really bad, and now we got that tsunami of bookings and guests. And I have been working, I think, 6 months for 18 hours a day, answering on average, on top of my regular job, 400 guest inquiries a day. And it's just something that no one can keep on doing. So, yeah, we're slightly overstaffing now, especially before the busy season comes up.
Goes back to point number 1. This job is hard, like really hard, like 24/7 hard.
Yeah.
And if it's hard, it's nice to have a few extra, arrows in the quiver, so to speak, and a little bit of an army behind you, where when those problems occur, you've got a few more people to help out. That makes complete sense.
And it ties also into that other mistake, right? Like firing fast, because if you're like just and someone is not performing the way they should be, you don't have the luxury to let them go. And we've been in that situation many times too, especially on the guest relations side. It takes 2-3 months for someone to get up and running, and you have people that are really cutting corners, and you're you cannot do anything about it, because if you fire them, you're in trouble because you don't have someone else yet, and if you find someone, it's going to take a few months to train them. So then you need to keep those bad apples, and that's dangerous because it's going to spread. So that's something, that we learn the hard way, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. No, that makes complete sense. Well, I'm going to join together 9 and 10 if you're okay with that, Dennis, because they're both kind of in the marketing OTA side of things, and they kind of go, I think, kind of some complementary layers will come out of this. So number 9 was thinking that we had to list our homes on as many booking channels as possible. Turns out really 80% of your bookings will come from just a few of the channels, 20% of the channels. Focus on your top 5 maybe or so and learn how to master them. So that was number 9. Number 10 is OTA bookings are not bad. Popular opinion in our industry is that the real cost per acquisition is not fully understood or well understood. In fact, you learned that your direct bookings were actually twice as high as the commissions that you were paying OTAs in the highly competitive market that you're in. Analyzing costs and understanding that direct bookings are really the way to go for your market. If not, embrace the OTAs, but make sure to manage them carefully so you don't depend on a single one of them. So I guess I see 2 different kind of schools of thoughts there, Dennis. I'd love to kind of hear your current philosophy on getting directs, but also leveraging OTAs, and what's the right mix or what's the right balance for you at Cassiola to build your business.
Yeah. So when I just started and I purchased that existing business, they were on dozens and dozens of websites. And back in the days, you had a lot of those subscription websites where you paid a fixed fee to list your home on a website for a year. And when I did my analysis, and I think that's also my background from e-commerce, we were measuring everything, right? Every dollar that you spend, you want to know exactly how much revenue that generated and how they came to your website and how much time they spend on each page and so on. So I've always been very analytical, and I realized pretty quickly that like 80% of the bookings came from our top 5 channels. So what I did is I just canceled all the other contracts and start focusing on those main channels. And that is something that I see a lot of other managers making a mistake. They complain like, oh, booking.com is not working for me, or Airbnb. Up until a few years ago, like Airbnb in our area, no, that's a channel that doesn't work. It's all Verbo for us. That's of course the biggest BS. They just didn't know how to use Airbnb, and they thought, hey, I just put my listings on there and all the bookings are gonna come in. Every channel is so different. They have different demographics. They work differently. You have to create your listings differently. They have different policies, and that is something that we were really good at from the beginning. So we really analyzed the channel and mastered it, as I mentioned there, because you cannot just use a channel manager or connect your PMS and distribute your same listing to all those different OTAs. You have to know exactly what you want to show on one OTA compared to the others. For the longest time, we were really handcrafting listings on Airbnb before we connected the calendars and availability. We would build those listings by hand. Then for the same unit, we would build a listing by hand on booking.com. We had different photos, different headlines, just optimizing it for each channel and demographic. And then when they were all built, we would connect just rates and availability, not even photos and content, just rates and availability. And we've done that for years. Now, recently, channel managers and PMSs have become better. And I think also the ODAs have grown closer together and are working or operating more in the same way. But yeah, it's important that you learn the ins and outs of each OTA. Don't assume that if you have one listing, you can just push it to as many websites as you want, and then that you're gonna get hundreds and hundreds of bookings. And then the second part of the mistake is indeed like we have grown thanks to OTAs. Orlando is a very hard market. You've got every single hotel chain in this market. You've got Disney, you've got Universal, you've got all the big OTAs. They're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars in Orlando, and it's almost impossible as a small player to come up there in the rankings or doing some SEO or SEA. I think you're paying here between $10-15 per click just to get a click, right? To get them on your website. And then we have a limited amount of properties, especially if you compare that to booking.com or Expedia. So the chances that we get a booking through that click are very slim compared to the big OTAs. So we did our analysis. We tried everything from long tail keywords to SEA, SEO. We've done everything, and we still do. but we don't spend big budgets on it because it costs us more to get a direct booking than to get an OTA booking. And then there's also the other side with like phone bookings and stuff like that. That's also so expensive. I don't think a lot of vacation rental managers realize how expensive it is, or was, especially in the past, to have a call center with people to take phone bookings. You always need to overstaff again because you don't want your guests to wait 30 minutes on hold to speak to someone. So it was so expensive, and I never understood, like, why would you want to have so many direct bookings over the phone? Because it costs you a lot to get those. And we were one of the first property managers in this area that got on Airbnb back in the day before it was hot and sexy. It was a website that no one knew. And we have grown so much thanks to Airbnb. They have exploded, and we've grown with them. We were one of the first managers to be on Marriott homes and villas, and we got hundreds of bookings from them in the beginning. And that was just because we were so focused on learning their business model, their customer, making changes, and catering really to their customer base, and not just putting our listing that we had on Airbnb on the Marriott website. So I think that's really important. There's so many wins to make if you take the time and make sure that you understand how each channel works, or at least your top 5, because I know it can be a lot and you cannot spend an equal amount of time on all those channels if they only generate 1 or 2 bookings a month or per year. But on your top 5, you should absolutely spend time on it to master them in and out.
I love this contrarian approach. You know what I mean? It's just understanding that there is actually there is a truly an acquisition cost for those direct bookings. I mean, David and Gotti has been preaching this for a while now, right? He's like, having a nice mix of direct bookings versus OTAs is actually really healthy for your business, and understanding what that acquisition cost is. And I was just saw a presentation he did. He's like, talking about this whole book direct movement. He goes, I can get you 100% direct bookings. I'll just price your property at $1 per night. You'll have homeless people in there. You'll have long-term rentals. He's like, but if you want to kind of optimize the rates, like, you do need to have a nice blend. So, it's like OTAs have this, bad rap, and it's kind of like a bad word, and I'm talking to, Conrad here, which is, build up bookings, and that's a lot of what he does. But having a nice, healthy mix is actually a good thing for your brand.
Yeah.
No,
And that's
I agree
also
with that, though.
important for the channel mix. Don't become dependent on one channel. And that's something that we always work very hard on. We don't want one channel to become too dominant. Not one channel should be 60 or 70% of your bookings,
Right.
because then you're in trouble. So
yeah.
we try, our top 3 is usually around 20 to 25 to 30 max percent, because it goes up and down. And if one of the channels becomes too high, we just increase rates, and so it comes down a little bit again. So we really manage our channel mix, and that's important. Don't think like, oh, Airbnb is doing great, let's do more and more on Airbnb, because it's like a snowball effect, right? The more conversion you have on one OTA, the higher you're gonna rank, and the more bookings you're gonna get. And before you know it, you get all your bookings from one channel, and the other channels don't convert anymore. So sometimes we give one channel a boost, and then we see like, oh, we have to stop and do something on the other channels because they're really going down in conversion. And once you're too low, it's gonna get hard to get out of that pit. So manage your channels wisely. That is definitely something we should add here to that list.
Yeah. No, I actually agree with a lot of what you're saying, Dennis. And I think a lot of people haven't done the math on what it takes to acquire a booking, and they don't understand which channels are actually cheaper to acquire over time. So like email is a great example, where like your incremental cost to deliver an email goes up almost nothing. Like as your list grows, the influence of your email list grows significantly, but the cost, MailChimp or Constant Contact, whoever might charge you 10, 20, $30 more per month, but it's insignificant because you're adding thousands of contacts. So that's a channel where over time your cost per acquisition on email actually goes down significantly. PPC, to your point, it doesn't necessarily scale well. Like you're going to pay what you pay per click, I've not seen numbers that you're describing. 10, $15 per click is pretty rare, but you did bring up a good point where it's like, you're not going to outspend the other guys. My sort of philosophy, I guess, or learning there that I've had is that the goal isn't to outspend, the goal is just to be profitable. So if you're profitable and you're comfortable with your cost per acquisition, even if you're spending $2,000 a month, maybe that's the optimum level for you. Even if Airbnb could spend 200,000, that's fine. You're not competing with Airbnb. You're competing with these other channels. So I think we actually agree a lot more maybe than people might think if they heard that or read that off the cuff. And I'm with you, for sure, Brooke. There's certainly a mix. We have some clients that are these 90% book direct ranges, and I think it actually is almost a little unhealthy, and they're not getting all the visibility they could. Usually it's like legacy managers that have been around for decades in a single market, so they have this brand awareness going for them. So it's a good thing. But we have a client who only opens his calendar to Airbnb in the next 30 days, for example. Everything past that is only on his website, which is a good example of leveraging Airbnb and using it, but not overly relying on just direct. So we could do a whole nother hour on that, but I know we're already over time here a little bit, Dennis. So Brooke's got one more question for you, and then we'll round you out here and get you on your way. But we appreciate you recording those today.
Yeah. So Dennis, you've obviously learned a ton over your career, and obviously starting two successful businesses. But if you could go back to your 25-year-old self and give one piece of advice, what would it be?
So what I learned over the years is you can do whatever you set your mind to. Don't doubt yourself. When you just start in a new industry, which I did, or you go in a different route, it may seem scary because everything is so new and foreign and different than what you used to. Get out of your comfort zone. Just put the time and the effort in, and you're gonna be okay. You can accomplish amazing things if you just put your mind to it. So don't be afraid, just do it.
Love it.
I like that. We should get some Cassiola Nike hats, Dennis, where you could just do it, and then it's like Cassiola there. But I like that. That's good. It's a good crossover. Yeah. Well, awesome. One thing that we super appreciate at this point, Dennis, thank you for hopping on and recording with us. You've always got like the cool branding colors, everything. I like kind of seeing this. So this was a fun interview to do. But
can we ask real quick? Why did you choose pink? I think I know the answer, but why did you choose pink as your color?
So it's a story. So when I just started out here, I did some market research, and what I did is I collected all the logos from competitors that I could find in the Orlando market, and I put them all on one sheet. So back in the days, it was like All Star or Brookwood and then Global and all these other companies. And I had them all on a sheet, and I was looking at it, and they all had like green and blue and yellow, the sun, the ocean, the palm trees. And I was thinking, like, what can we do to stand out here? And I picked the exact opposite color of what everybody else had. So no one had the hot pink, magenta. There were some companies that had red in their logo, but no one had the hot pink. And yeah. The rest is history.
I love it. Nice. I love it. Well, it's
we're to be different. Don't do what everybody else is doing. Yeah. You want to stand out, so do something different.
Yeah, I love it. And it's I thought it was because most reservations, especially down in Orlando, are made by mom, and you're catering to the mother. Of this.
Yeah. That is absolutely true, and that was because in the beginning, should we really do that? I'm a guy. Should we choose pink? And more research showed that that's usually the mom booking the vacation home. So that came in as a nice bonus.
Dennis, my story isn't completely dissimilar for my own business. I had to find a color that no one else was using. I kind of am partial to green, but I'm like, there's kind of a company that does what we do that was green, and I kind of used to work there, so I can't do that. Blue was taken by a company called Blue 10, so that kind of makes it hard. So I kind of came up with a color. It's kind of like salmon, but again, no one has taken it. I can't pull off the pink the way you pull it off. So kudos to you. I just don't have that in me. So I like that. That was a good little bonus one in there. Awesome. Well, yeah, if the listener made it this far, then we super appreciate reviews. We get the most reviews on Spotify and iTunes. So if you're listening, you made it this far, then we super appreciate if you can leave 5 stars. We get more downloads. We get more awesome guests like Dennis on the show in the future from the book. There'll be links to show notes to Dennis, on LinkedIn. There'll be links to Cassiola. Obviously, if you're in one of these places you're about to vacation in, you should definitely consider booking with Dennis. We'll put a link into Workplace, like we talked about as well, tool that Dennis uses, and we'll get some value from that. But thank you again, Dennis, for recording with us today. We appreciate it. And we'll catch everyone on the next episode. Thanks so much.